Some more breaking news for you this morning. We're just hearing that a search is underway for a 3-year-old British girl who's gone missing in the Algarve area of Portugal, and she went missing last night. Hundreds of people have been searching for the girl.
In this short documentary, there are going to be some sickening theories as to what actually happened to Madeleine. But please bear in mind that there is more evidence which supports these theories than there is which supports the original theory of her disappearance. So let's have a look at some of the strangest facts about this disturbing case. Just before the video begins, if you are new around here, be sure to hit the subscribe button and click the bell to be notified every time I upload. On the evening of May 3rd, 2007, 3-year-old Madeleine Mcann disappeared from her bed in a holiday apartment in a resort in the Algarve region of Portugal. 11 years and £12 million later, this case remains unsolved, although, thanks to many committed internet users who have taken it upon themselves to try and obtain some form of justice for this little girl, it has been shown that there is a significant amount of story inconsistencies and strange behaviour by the family of Madeleine in regards to what actually happened on the night of her apparent abduction. The story goes that Madeleine and her 2-year-old twin siblings were left asleep at 8:30 PM in the ground floor apartment while the McCanns and friends dined in a restaurant 55 metres away. The parents checked on the children throughout the night until Madeleine's mother discovered that she was missing at 10 PM. When this initial chain of events was released to the public, many people claimed straight away that they were not convinced that the McCanns were telling the truth. Even professionals agree that both Gerry and Kate McCann had some form of knowledge that something was going to happen that night. Their initial statement was very meticulous and organised, which would be unusual for parents whose child has just been abducted. The way Kate and Gerry McCann talk about their missing daughter, even from their first interview, is extremely unusual for two supposedly distressed parents whose little girl has just been abducted.
I think that everybody has just been incredibly impressed with you as a couple and how you've dealt with this. There was a period after a week or so where you looked as if you were almost broken, and who could not understand that? And then there seemed to be a sort of a strength come from somewhere. Is that a fair point? Is that what happened, and what brought that about?
I think that's definitely true, isn't it?
Certainly, you know, at the end of that first week, there was so much emotion that we had spent, and we actually had a period where we discussed this openly, that we felt completely devoid of emotion. And the analogy that I like to use is a bit like when we were students and you got to your overdraft limit and you'd gone beyond it and there was just nothing left in the tank. I think physically and mentally were shattered. But you know, as you gradually get more on an even keel, we started to get back into the black, and we'd also worked tirelessly behind the scenes to put support mechanisms in place, including our legal team, the response with the fund, which was really driven by offers rather than us thinking that we needed it. And once these were in place, then it helped us to focus on what we really needed to focus on.
It was almost as though they were describing an object or pet rather than their child. Their descriptions of Madeleine rarely involves her as a person, but instead focuses on her appearance. Unlike most distraught parents who would perhaps mention how they miss their child's laugh, the McCanns focus more on how they miss her perfect features.
She was an incredibly beautiful baby, actually.
You sound like the most biased parents on the planet now, but she was just really compact and just a really kind of nice, round, perfect head.
When talking about his last memory of Madeleine, Gerry McCann said he peeped into her room and just lingered for a minute, admiring her beauty.
I actually stuck my head round the door and I just lingered for a few seconds and thought how beautiful she was. That's the last time I saw her.
Why is Madeleine's appearance the only thing Kate and Gerry talk about in regards to their daughter? Why do they not express their affection for the things she did? This obsession can be seen in almost every interview that they have done while talking about Madeleine. Some people have taken this obsession with their daughter's appearance as evidence that the McCanns were in fact predators. At first, this seems like quite the accusation, but there is mounting evidence which supports this claim. The most shocking of which comes from Kate McCann's own book, Madeleine, where she graphically describes the awful pictures that scrolled through her head of Madeleine's perfect little genitals being torn apart. What kind of parent would think about images of their child's genitals? The normal parent in their position would be worried about their child's well-being and would be dwelling on the fact they could do nothing to help them. What kind of mother, no matter what kind of distress she is under, would write this about her own little girl? This is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the evidence which suggests Kate and Jerry McCann had a sexual interest in their own daughter. With this evidence in mind, many people have put forward the sickening theory that on the evening of May 3rd, Kate and Jerry McCann drugged Madeleine in preparation for her to be collected. This seems absurd, but Kate McCann herself even stated how sleepy Madeleine was that night, and authorities noted that Madeleine's twin siblings both seemed as though they had been given some form of sleeping medication, as they remained static even through all of the chaos of Madeleine's disappearance, and did not react in any way when being handled by strangers. This theory would explain why there was no screaming or commotion which would be expected in the abduction of a child. So, let's say all of this is true. What actually happened on the days leading up to Madeleine's disappearance? Well, let's turn our attention to the McCann's holiday companions. They were accompanied by 3 other families who were all friends of Jerry and Kate's, all of which had very young children.
Cheer up, Jerry, we're on holiday.
The thing that baffles me about all of this is that the destination that the families travelled to wasn't a child-friendly resort. It was in a small fishing town on the coast of Portugal, which had been described as boring. Why would 4 families with very young children all simultaneously decide to go on holiday to a resort which isn't going to be any fun for their children? Bearing in mind that the McCanns are both doctors and the professions of their friends are of a similar status, they could all, more than likely, afford to go anywhere. Why would they all choose to go here of all places? As well as this, all of the adults worked very busy and high status jobs. For them all to get the same time off at the exact same time, this trip must have been planned months in advance, so it is extremely curious that none of them planned childcare. None of them even attempted to look for someone to look after their children. Why didn't they? Why did they all consciously decide to take their children to this isolated holiday resort? None of it makes any sense, unless it wasn't the location that they were going for, but instead a common friend. Just 500 metres from where the McCanns were staying lived Sir Clement Freud, who is the grandson of the psychologist Sigmund Freud. After Madeleine's abduction, Sir Clement coincidentally invited the McCanns to his luxurious mansion for drinks just shortly after Madeleine went missing. A short time after his meeting with the McCanns, Freud was exposed as a paedophile in an ITV documentary.
There were many faces to Sir Clement Freud. He's remembered as a popular broadcaster, as a Liberal MP, and as a gourmet. But some have very different memories of him. For Sylvia Woosley, he was a predator who won the confidence of her parents so he could abuse her.
But this is not all. Only 200 metres away from where the McCanns were staying lived another sexual deviant, Robert Murat. Murat took a particular interest in this case, acting as the McCanns' translator after the disappearance of Madeleine. Murat was one of the first suspects in the case. It was believed that Madeleine's body was buried under his newly laid driveway. A South African real estate developer, using a ground-penetrating radar, says he found what could be a burial site under Morat's driveway. After asking authorities to excavate the driveway, providing them with hard copies of his findings, they refused under the guise that they had already examined the area with ground-penetrating technology in 2007 and found no evidence of a burial site. Although, it is important to bear in mind that Madeleine's DNA was found in Morat's house shortly after he was removed as a suspect. Tests confirm the samples of hair and body fluid were that of Madeleine Mcann, and despite this outstanding evidence, no charges have been made. Furthermore, canine units from the UK detected the smell of decomposition in the McCann's hotel room, and small traces of Madeleine's blood were also found. This too was dismissed as insufficient evidence. The McCann family rented a car 2 weeks after Madeleine disappeared. Again, UK canine units detected the smell of decomposition in the car, and DNA tests of bloodstains found were from Madeleine.
The Portuguese police are so confident in their theory that Madeleine's parents, one or other of them, played a part in their daughter's death. The details are these: that the samples that came back last week after British test in the UK, the samples produced 3 matches of Madeleine's DNA. Now, in the apartment, police found 1 full match on a windowsill, a full match of Madeleine's DNA. That's perhaps not so important because Madeleine, of course, had been staying there for the best part of a fortnight with her parents. Now, in the hire car, which was hired 5 weeks after Madeleine's disappearance, the tests have showed a partial match of Madeleine's DNA, which might be explained by transfer onto clothes or other paraphernalia that the family were still using 5 weeks on. But this is the crucial thing. In the car, the scientists have also found a second full match, and police say that is the most damning evidence that's been returned by these forensic test results, and it shows, as far as they're concerned, the presence of Madeleine's body in the hire car 5 weeks, at least 5 weeks, after she disappeared. And as I said, this begins to explain, I think, why the police are so adamant about their theory.
If this evidence is not enough, it was found that Robert Murat paid for the vehicle, but did so under the name of his wife. This was also ruled as insufficient evidence. So now we have 2 very high-profile predators who are linked to this case, not only by locality, but by actual association with Gerry and Kate McCann. And we also have strong evidence which, if investigated properly, could answer a lot of questions, but for some reason authorities are choosing to do nothing about it. The family and the authorities seem to be hiding something. This can not only be seen in the authorities' lack of effort to pursue strong evidence, but also in the body language of the parents, the inconsistent stories and the categorically incorrect statements that they have made. For instance, Kate initially claimed that the abductor must have jammed the external shutters open to get into the apartment, climbing through the window and then kidnapping Madeleine, although the fact of the matter is that the external shutter on the children's bedroom window was not damaged, neither was it jammed in any way, and the only DNA found on the window was Kate's. A false eyewitness account was also made by one of the McCann's friends, Jane Tanner. She claimed that she had seen somebody with dark hair carrying a little girl who looked like Madeleine at the time of the abduction. As well as this, Jane, Gerry and Kate's statements regarding what happened on the day of Madeleine's disappearance do not add up. Both Jane and Kate claim that Madeleine was playing tennis with them, but the details of Jane's story do not match Kate's, suggesting that they are both lying about what happened. The McCanns released a picture of Madeleine 3 days after she went missing, to prove that Madeleine was playing tennis on the 3rd of May. Although, hotel staff do not recall seeing Madeleine playing tennis, and claim that the clothes she is wearing in the picture were the ones she wore on Tuesday, the 1st of May, which is supported by a timesheet which shows that is when Madeleine's mini tennis group was playing. After inspecting the picture further, it was found that the file information had been altered, making it impossible to tell when the picture had been taken. Now, this is the last nail in the coffin for the McCanns. Gerry and Kate McCann possessed the pyjamas that they claim Madeleine was wearing when she disappeared. They claimed that the pyjamas were an identical match but belonged to Madeleine's younger sister, but these pyjamas would have been way too big for a 1-year-old. Madeleine's uncle even confirmed that those pyjamas belonged to Madeleine. How do Kate and Gerry McCann have the exact same pair of pyjamas that Madeleine was allegedly wearing on the night of her disappearance? Had the McCanns, shall we say, been suspected of robbing a shop, and given such contradictory statements as we know them to have done, just how far do you think they would have got? Testaments, not just contradictory, but on many occasions diametrically opposite to what has been uttered previously by this shady pair. Conflicting statements, not just overlooked by police, I have to say, but totally ignored. And one cannot help but ask the question, why? It is, after all, the fate of a 3-year-old we are talking about here. So, what do you believe really happened to Madeleine? Let me know in the comments. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and subscribe to my channel to keep up to date with my videos. See you next time.